All right, welcome back, Weather Kingdom. In this update, we are going to be taking a look at a Arctic outbreak that has just continued and has honestly worsened through December so far. We're in the 7th of December, and it's been a very chilly start to winter across northern United States, especially across the Northeast. When could this finally break, and what is it looking like into the end of December, into Christmas and New Year's? That's all coming up in just a few minutes. So just give me 1 second. I am quickly doing some stuff here. How are you, Justin Wilson? Nice to see you on the stream here. We have a lot to talk about with this upcoming pattern. I am trying to do a stream before work that we can get it right through. What is up, everybody? What is up? We are getting people into the stream here. We're going to be talking about the southern snow and a lot of things to talk about with the temperatures. So stay tuned, everybody. I'm quickly getting some things set up. Just a flash here is, look at this, you guys. A southern snowstorm. Again, another one. If you're in North Carolina, West Virginia, parts of Tennessee, Kentucky, and parts of the coastal regions. Could the Outer Banks see a few flakes flying by the end of the week? It is very possible. We're going to be taking a look at that big time and what the projected snowfall totals are possible and what it could be like. How is everybody doing? How is everybody doing in this lovely day? I hope everyone's doing pretty good. All right, we have a lot to talk about. All right, we already got 5 people here. Let's do that. Welcome. Are talking about the upcoming winter events that could take place. All right, so we're going to get it started right here, you guys. If you guys are tuning in today, you guys might be wondering, what is the talk about this area again? This area has been in the talks in the last couple weeks of very cold air, and it's actually been snowing quite a bit, you guys. There is another snow event on the way across the southern regions. So let's look at quickly some of the alerts, because I know we need to take a look at some of the alerts going on here. Is there any alerts? And yes, there is. So we got winter weather advisories. We even got winter storm watches that could become warnings. So this includes Charleston, West Virginia. This is more for the southern, even North Carolina. Even right near the Kitty Hawk area in the Outer Banks. Like this one right near the Outer Banks is 1 to 2 inches of snow is expected. Locally higher amounts, you guys. It's going to be an interesting one. If you guys are in the winter storm watches, they're expecting a 3 to 4 inch event. Locally higher is possible. It's very interesting that we are finding some higher totals out of this. I will not be surprised. Most of this winter weather advisory is for 1 to 3. So I will put about a 2 to 4 inch event across these regions here. Could this be extended a little bit farther north? I do believe so, or even some special weather statements across the northern regions. There is winter weather advisories that go into West Virginia, North Carolina, and some of the Appalachian Mountains into Tennessee and North Carolina. So Washington, D.C. is not under this winter weather advisory, but there is a special weather statement for actually some snow is possible. Okay, so it's some chances of snow and some snow showers going into the time frame. So for the snow event, this is going to be taking place tonight into tomorrow, and who could be impacted will be very interesting. All right, we will be talking about, hey, Weather Kino, I've been in Mississippi on a college trip. You are good. All right, so let's take a look here. This is the latest NAM model. This is going to go into about Monday. So this is about Monday early morning. Nothing really going on. We go into Monday afternoon. We start to see some snow showers and rain showers across Tennessee, North Carolina. Look at that. Already some snow showers developing tomorrow afternoon. And then as you go into the later parts in the afternoon, look at this. It's for like 1 in the afternoon. This will be a little bit later in the afternoon. Later in the afternoon, that snow continues to develop across the northern regions. This actually goes into about Monday night, and it actually could deepen quite a bit going into the evening times tomorrow. You even see some heavier snow pockets, especially across North Carolina. I think there could be a little bit of an 4 to 6 inch amount, honestly, around these regions. Across the coast. Depends on how quickly that low gets transferred off the coast. You got a little bit baroclinic forcing, and then some more interesting data, and then that kind of moves out. Could the Outer Banks see some flurries? I do believe so. The snowfall, the total coverage, it does indicate there is going to be potentially a spot that could see an overperformer, maybe 6, even 7, 8 inches in parts of North Carolina. I don't think it's going to be that much. I think more of a 2 to 4 to locally 5-inch storm. Maybe a 6 reading there and there. But I do not expect it to be 8 inches. I think the name's a little bit more aggressive. But this could definitely play out also. I will call this another snowstorm across the south. All right. So this ain't the first one. When we take a look at the HER model is a lot less of a snow amount. Going into 12Z, you do see some snow throughout tomorrow. This kind of baroclinic, but it doesn't baroclinic around the coast like the NAM does. And I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't happen like the NAM, and then that kind of moves out. But your total snowfall on the courage, you're only seeing, you don't even see that 6 to 8 inches. You only see about a coating to an inch. I think the NAM is not the best. The HER model is not the best in this scenario, but it still shows some local spots getting up to 5 inches of snow possible. I wouldn't be surprised if that. All right. So, let's go into another model. Let's go look at some snowfall totals. This is another model. Agreeing with the HER, so maybe the NAM's a little bit off here. Let's go in the NAM NIST. That's further to the south, but not as aggressive. But there is still 2 to 4 to 5 inch. I think that's more of the likelihood. This is another model, 3 to 5. Total's a little bit more to the north. The European is pretty good going to 6Z. A general 2 to 4, maybe locally 5 inches. More in the northern tier of the area. The GFS, pretty much same thing. The snowfall a little bit more south, but a general 2 to 4 inches. And then your ensembles, that's pretty much fine with that. So it's not going to be a big event, but it's going to be some type of snow. Then what happens going into the Great Lakes regions? Right now, we do see a good, strong clipper system that will be going from the northern tier of the United States. All right, so that we get a one today, one tonight, another one in the northeast right now, some snow showers, and then we get one more. But this one is, the NAM is trying to collide these two a little bit with the pace. I don't know if this is going to happen, but it will bring some pretty good snow, pretty deep area of low pressure. This actually will be a snowstorm at this point. 3 to 6 inches most likely, and this does bring snow into the Northeast. And when we take a look at the NAM, look at that. You bring some pretty good snowfall totals here, especially across the northern plains. You're talking about another, in the Dakota regions, another 4 to 8 inch event into the Great Lakes even. You're talking about 4 to 8 and, in the lake effect, and even near Lake Erie, in some spots up to almost a foot of snow. And then when you go into the Northeast, it's a lot more or less, besides the lake effect regions that could even see up to 2 feet of snow with the NAM model. It is very interesting that the NAM is this aggressive. This will be a pretty good lake effect snow event to play out. Some strong winds also will be added into it. Okay, yes. And then the GFS in this scenario with the Clipper system will generally go through the north. Oh, wow, that's a lot more south. Oh, wait, nope, wrong one. This kind of goes through. I will honestly call that another snowstorm. An Alberta Clipper, that's actually probably the strongest one in the season. You're still talking about a widespread 4 to 8 to even 6 to 10 inches in spots, you guys. A actually pretty large snowstorm across the upper Midwest here. This is going to continue to add into your totals and even into the Great Lakes regions. This looks like a big lake effect snow event to take place, near Watertown, northern New York. You're looking at another solid 18 inches, almost a foot for Lake Erie. So a pretty good lake effect snow event that's going to be playing out here from today into tomorrow. And then look at that. GFS really likes that other system right there. And then could we even see some more systems? I do believe so. There is a chance for some more snow shots here. So let's go into the GFS. We see this one system right here. We go into our Clipper. This is the weak one that we'll be going through tomorrow. But then we see that stronger one behind it. That's a solid snowstorm, I do believe. Could this shift a little bit more south? Because the latest runs over the last 24 hours have generally shifted the snow to the south. And I'm very interested in if it does that, because could this deepen a little bit? I do believe it could try and deepen somewhat and stay a little bit strong and bring some more snow across the Northeast. And then that kind of moves on with some lake effects, some colder air. And then we see another shot of snow. And this will be more lake effect. And could something try and spin up off the coastal region? Some of the models think it's just going to be some bad lake effect snow with some very cold wind and temperatures. And then the GFS doesn't want to show until the 13th. Another Clipper system that could be riding right into the Great Lakes, Chicago, Pennsylvania. And this one does try and become a nor'easter also. So the chances with these next coming Clipper systems are very interesting. And then the GFS wants to show for your 19th. A little bit of a warm area. And then another cold front, a Clipper system. And then it wants to show a snowstorm potentially for the Northeast, an ice storm / rain event, and the Great Lakes regions for the 20th as we're getting closer into Christmas. And then looks like another shot of very cold air to come. So it is very interesting in this scenario. What would happen if this all happens? The GFS wants to bring a blanket of snow, especially across these regions here. Let me draw out where the heaviest snows are. You're talking about these regions, right in here will be the biggest and heaviest snowfall. 1 to even 3 feet potentially of snow out of the GFS going into almost Christmas. So lots of snow potentially into the rest of December with your GFS model. Take this with a grain of salt because everyone's a little bit different. This one had a little bit more aggressive across the Great Lakes regions. And just take it with a grain of salt. This was the 6Z, you guys, showing that Clipper system a little bit further to the north. And then another area of low pressure. This latest run didn't want to show it, but it does try a nor'easter. The Euro does it too. So we're going to have to really watch because that could bring a surprise nor'easter. And then another Clipper system and then some very cold air. And don't worry about that. But I wouldn't go by the 60 and then 0Z. was pretty cold going into your Christmas. Doesn't really warm up a lot of clipper systems. It does mild, and that chance of a nor'easter right there on the 16th here. So the pattern is there for something to try and get going off the coastal regions. I just don't think it's enough information there just yet to make that clarification. How do we know there is a chance for a nor'easter or some type of bigger snowstorm? Because when we take a look at, let's go into 200 millibar heights, the pattern becomes pretty tilted. When I'm talking about this here, let's look at that. So you guys can kind of see it here when we take a look at this system. You guys see, this is the, let me actually do this here. 200 millibar height anomalies. There it is. We got a trough generally like this, you guys. We got a little pressure out ahead of it. If this continues to move south, this could deepen a little bit and bring some more snow across the southern regions. I think that's a possibility with this system. I don't think it's going to keep moving too much south. And then we can kind of see another shot here. I'm really interested on how this pattern really shapes up. On the latest run, it doesn't want to get something off the East Coast. But last run, it did try. So look, see, last run, this run, it's a little bit more, less of that. But the pattern, you can kind of see it. It's a positive tilt trough. So if a low pressure tries and gets going here, it could move on pretty fast. You kind of want it to see like this, and then you'll see that deepen. We saw that a few runs ago. Let's see. Boom. You see that? It's been... And then you could kind of see that move on like this. Another wave, and then we get the pattern to change up just a bit. Your Canadian model here, let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at the Canadian. Does it show anything big? It shows that southern system. I already showed you guys the snowfall for that. It shows that clipper, then that other snowstorm that goes to the upper Midwest or the Great Lakes into the Northeast. That's a bit more south too, bringing a little bit of a heavier snow swath. I really want to see the nighttime runs. Maybe I will go live tonight. And then you see another cold front. Nor'easter never gets going. If anything, we get a little bit of a bear clinic, but that's all the way up near Maine. You can kind of see that. The negative tilt trough, this will be, if this can kind of pictures itself a little bit more south, yeah, then this could definitely be run of a nor'easter or whatever. Going with the Canadian throughout the rest, it doesn't really want to show another little shot of snow and then that other snowstorm, a little bit warmer of a snowstorm. GFS is also, actually doesn't even show it. So there's some differences in the models. Okay. The icon here, when we take a look, it definitely has that one for tomorrow into Tuesday. Not still really there, but that third one, that clipper, really is much more south. It's trending a little bit more south, and it does bring a little bit more of a swath of snow. On the Wednesday and Thursday, a little bit more snow, deepens the pattern a little bit, and then the icon also brings another shot of some snow, and it does try here. This is what I'm saying. I'm very interested if this does try and trend out of nowhere. You get a negative tilt trough, and you get a low pressure to try and form off the East Coast. That's why I'm saying take this with a grain of salt. Things could still change, and then it does it again for Maine area. So just something to keep an eye on. The latest European model, when we take a look at that, shows that southern snow event, not too aggressive. In the 12Z, we get that snow shower, and then we get that third big lake effect snow event. That's going to be some very strong winds potentially. I think 50 to 60 mile an hour winds with some very cold air. That's going to get through some good lake effect snow. And then look at that. The Euro does try and get something going here. going into the pattern here, the Euro does see a little bit of something negative till trough, and you get 1,001 millibar low pressure off the East Coast. I am interested if that does trend a little bit bigger. It's still some time out, still about 6 to 7 days out. And then we do it again. More snow shots, and then the Euro goes a little bit more warmer, shows a little bit more of a warmer pattern, and then a little bit of a nor'easter again. But look at that cold, dense air, once again, coming back down into the United States. All right. When we take a look at the temperatures, what is it looking like? All right. Very cold Arctic air. It's going to continue. And it does get pretty bad. I mean, going into the 18, this is pretty interesting. You know, we're talking about potentially negative 50. This will be Arctic outbreak of the extreme here, if the GFS is right, with that warmer. I mean, you're talking about negative 50 degrees here going into mid-December, you guys. Negative 50 across North Dakota. That is some very, very cold air. And that's going to be a very interesting one. That really slams into, I mean, you're still talking about negative 40 going into the Great Lakes, you guys. And then we do it again. Once again, negative 40 degrees potentially going into the 21st. So some extreme cold air. And it looks like a lot of very cold air to the north, you guys. A lot of Arctic air. So that's a theme going into December, into late. Your daily temperatures do not want to budge at all, you guys. I'm telling you that right now. Very cold. Your Canadian model, this only goes out 240, but look at that. The next Arctic blast, you know, negative temperatures, and then going into the end around the 17th, you get that big Arctic blast once again. A little worrying to me, all right? Just a little bit. All right, we're definitely going to be talking about that. If you guys are new to the channel, please like, please subscribe. That would be very greatly appreciated. When we take a look at the temperatures, yeah, let's go from, this is the latest 12Z. Let's go in the next 48 hours. Boom. Let's just watch these colder air Arctic outbreaks continue. Look at that. North Dakota, you're talking about negatives. Negative 10s going 144 hours out, and then boom, another shot of cold air. Negative 20 potentially. This is the latest Euro. That continues. You're talking about even near negative 25 degrees. Very cold Arctic air, and that continues. We get another shot right there. It's not too aggressive, but it definitely continues to keep that Arctic air around the Dakotas and the northern United States. What does the GEFS ensembles look like? What does the ensembles look like? Those are control members. This goes out 384 hours out. But look at that. Pretty cold air. A little bit of warm up there. And then look at that. Steady cold. And with the models, a little bit warmer. And then this by December 23rd. The 0Z does go out. It never did. Okay. Interesting. Your EPS. Keeps it pretty chilly also. I'm interested on that. I think that's really interesting. When we take a look at the climatology in the next 8 to 14 days, if you guys are across the Northeast, very below average temperatures. That's just a straight across the eastern United States. Very below average temperatures. Not too much things have changed on that. 3 to 4 weeks. I haven't looked at that either. Yeah, look at that. A little bit better. This goes into about the January 2nd. Look at that. Another, still below, but about neutral across Northeast. They're a little skeptical on what happens. Pattern still looks very cold. Neutral, equal chances. And then below to the north. Alright. Pretty interesting stuff there. Precipitation also looks a little bit interesting going to 3 to 4 weeks with some colder air also. So we have to keep an eye on maybe a little bit more of an active pattern. And then this is the climatology, you guys, the European extensive weeklies. This goes into about January 18th, you guys, into really the heart of winter. And look what happens. We are about here, honestly, in the phases 8. It does get a little bit more milder through the rest of December. Kind of stays in phases 8. And then going to January, it just extends once again all the way back into phases 8. Even another Arctic outbreak, another stratosphere warming event could be on its way into January. So January is looking even worse as of right now. And even the European model and the EMON and the EMN just really aggressive into the phases 8. On your national blend too, going to the 21st, back into phases 8. So take it with a grain of salt. But some very, very cold temperatures are likely ahead. I'm interested, you guys. I'm interested on that shot of cold air. How is that going to play out? Yeah. Boom. I do wonder. I don't think it's going to show too much. Yeah, nah. Huh. How is this region?